Cheers and welcome, my friends. I'm Drak, and we are going to talk about dealing with depression and burnout. This is very different than the normal content that I make. I'm doing this because it's World Mental Health Day, and I think I have a certain following, a certain platform, and even if I can just help one single person with this video, it's definitely worth it to make it. So I guess I'm going to use my platform to maybe be a force of good for the world. Now, I haven't really prepared a script. I just want to talk about it, how depression might affect you. And I think it's especially important considering my channel has a mainly male audience. Because for men, it's kind of different to deal with depression than for women. There is kind of a stigma associated with depression. You might think you're being seen as weak. And because of that, men tend to do way less against their depression than women actually. They're way less likely to seek treatment, to actually go and try to get rid of the depression. Instead, they often tend to self-medicate, do excessive drinking, excessive gaming, excessive amounts of work. All that kind of stuff is something where we try to self-medicate, trying to push the negative feelings away, and that's definitely not going to help. I mean, self-medication can relieve the pressure that you have from the depression for a while, and that's probably good because it reduces the pain. But long-term, it's not really a viable solution. So let's talk about depression. Depression is if you're feeling down a lot of times, typical symptoms are insomnia, losing interest in stuff that used to interest you, like hobbies. Suicidal thoughts are often part of depression. But yeah, depression is generally well known, but often the symptoms aren't really seen by the surroundings. People with depression tend to be very good at actually playing a social role, so they might actually go out in the evening, hang out with their friends, be the center of the whole group, and then go home and cry themselves to sleep. That is definitely something that can happen if you have depression. Just bouts of blackness and darkness where you feel nothing really makes sense and life isn't worth living. That is pretty much at least my experience with depression. And with that, there can be like a feeling of being lazy and being guilty, feelings of guilt, be feeling like an imposter, someone who is just wrong. And you might even feel like you aren't actually ill, like you don't really have depression, you're just a lazy person or something. And that's definitely not true. You really gotta get over that. Like, if you are suffering from it, then it is an illness. Like, if you suffer from something and no one can talk that away, you might think that if you talked about your depression with your doctor, then they might say, no, you're not ill, you're actually just lazy. There are certain doctors that will do that, and those people are assholes. They should really think about what they're doing with their life. If they're in a caring profession and they're pushing people away when they're searching help. I had that happen, and that was an interesting experience. And it's very hard to get over that because you're already in a vulnerable state, and then someone else tells you that what you're perceiving and what you're suffering from is actually not real. That is really, really hard. It's definitely hard to get over it. But in general, most people in the caring professions are really, really helpful. I've met with incredible kindness during my search for a way of treatment. And there's actually good treatment available now for depression. Like of course, you have side effects if you take pills. But side effects have gone down in severeness. Like, you used to have to eat really heavy stuff where you would gain a lot of weight, and then it had tons and tons of side effects. There are still side effects, mainly because what you're doing, if you're trying to make an antidepressant is either increase the you're trying to increase the serotonin level in your blood, so you actually feel happier. You're doing that by trying to block the receptors of the serotonin in the brain, so that it isn't being taken up as much. Therefore, the amount of serotonin in your blood actually goes up, and because you handling things inside the brain and inside the blood, you're basically trying to do a very fine operation with a very clumsy instrument. But it does work. And sometimes the side effects are almost negligible with modern stuff. So what I found helped me a lot is definitely letting myself be medicated. If the first medication doesn't help you, that's pretty normal. You can actually try a variety of different medications now. There's a huge amount of those available now at this point. And that's really good. If one doesn't suit you, if you have bad side effects, migraines, there are all kinds of those, then just talk with your doctor and let them prescribe you something different until you find something that fits and that you can live with. Depression is an imbalance of chemicals in the brain in some respect. So if you can do something to get that balance back and feel better, then that is definitely something that you should do. For a long time, I've been of the opinion that I got to do it all with therapy, and I got to just change my life and think differently. And taking medication is just a plaster, a temporary solution that doesn't really fix anything. But I've come to rethink that position, mainly because it's much easier to make changes in your life and to actually put a lot of energy into an accompanying therapy if you're in a good state of mind, if you actually have the energy to go there and to invest yourself and to think through what kind of negative influences are actually bringing you down in your life. So medication is definitely helping there. And then if you have medication, depression is also fueled by feelings of inferiority, feelings of not getting anything done. That can spiral out of control, and you feel worse and worse the less of the things you actually get done, just because you're ill and you're not getting treated, and then things get screwed up. So actually taking the pharmaceutical option there is oftentimes not a bad idea. At least I've stuck with it in the past after trying various different approaches. But the other part that you really need to do is get psychotherapy treatment. Depending on how things go. But it's always good to talk with someone. But if you know where the depression comes from, let's say a member of your family died and just super sad that person is gone. That is a depressive episode. And for that, you might not need extensive psychotherapy treatment. But if you are fighting, if you're dealing with depression often, if you have various depressive episodes and you can't really pinpoint where they're coming from, then it's definitely a really good idea to also go for a psychotherapy treatment of one nomination or another. I'm not sure if you really need the classic Freudian, I'm going to spend hundreds of hours talking with someone about my dreams treatment. Those do work, and they can work, but there are also other treatments like behavioral psychotherapy that can actually do a lot more in a lot less time, is my experience at least. It might be different for other people. Not every form of therapy is actually suited for every person. And so if you can do that, if you can use the medication, take the medication, use the energy that you're getting from the medication, and maybe the ability to solve day-to-day things. One of the symptoms, one of the funny symptoms that I had when I had depression is I became extremely reluctant to open any sort of mail, because it would mean potentially dealing with demands from the outside. People wanting me to maybe pay bills or do something for them, whatever. And I just stopped opening the mail and I was just throwing it into one of my desk drawers. And if you think about that consciously, it's a super stupid way of dealing with that fear that something might come from the outside, because that's just gonna force an escalation of the outside world. If they want to get to you, they will in some form get to you. And if you're not paying your bills, they're gonna come home to you and take what you own if you let that go far enough, if you're ignoring it for long enough. But if you are in a deep bout of depression, that might seem like a totally reasonable thing. You just push it away, and then it's gone. And if you're getting medicated, that's something that you can much more easily deal with. So yeah, if you're going for psychotherapy together with a medication, then you can think about what you're actually doing wrong. You can think about negative influences in your life. Maybe there are people that are bringing you down. Maybe you're approaching certain situations in a wrong way. Maybe you're trying to be someone that you really aren't. So just having someone that can help you, someone who's objective, who doesn't really know any of the acting parties, can really help you reframe how things look and how you approach things. I mean, it can still be a very lengthy process if you have a lot of baggage. There might be baggage that you can that really isn't your fault. Like if you have a shitty childhood, you just have that baggage, and you just gotta try to live with that baggage and deal with the baggage before it actually crushes you. So dealing with the baggage as soon as possible, definitely a really good idea. So yeah, those two together, getting a form of medication that works for you with as little side effects as possible, and getting the appropriate therapy treatment that allows you to look at your life and thinking about things differently, trying new approaches, and also having someone who maybe has a ton of experience already in dealing with those specific problems and those ruts that you fall into. If you have that, suddenly you can actually see it as an illness, not as a personality deficiency, but actually just as an illness, just as a chemical imbalance in your brain and certain maybe bad habits or bad people or just bad situations that you're in that are kind of perpetuating your bad situation, your bad moods and your depression. So this can really, really help, and I definitely recommend it. Getting over the fact that you need help and actually admitting that you need help is definitely the hardest thing. And in the past, I haven't really been very good at that. Like, it's much easier to go to the doctor and say, I have a broken leg, please give me a cast or something, treat me, because that is something that is immediately apparent. Whereas mental illness, it's not immediately apparent. No one on the street can look at you and say, oh, that person has depression. But it's just as real. If you're suffering from it, it is real. And then you also deserve to be treated. So you really gotta get on that. Well, yeah, that is definitely a problem that men specifically have, that they will not get treatment. Oftentimes they just get pushed by their partners, their wives, their husbands, to go and get treatment. And yeah, that's definitely something that we need to work on, or that one just needs to be aware of. Like if you are aware of your own preconceptions and the way that you yourself think, then oftentimes you can actually deal better with situations, because you already know, I'm thinking about that situation in framing it that and that way, even though that might not be correct, because I am just that kind of guy that thinks about it that way. If you can get over that, or even if you can just be conscious that that is the kind of personal bias that you have, then that can go a long way. The other thing that I kind of wanted to talk about is burnout specifically. So burnout is sort of I'd call it a specific type of depression where you've been overcommitting. You've been spending way more energy than you actually have for a consistent period of time, basically eating through your reserves. And at some point, those reserves are gone. The reserves behind the reserves are gone, and you just find yourself at an absolute dead point where everything is too much and you can't really do anything. I had that experience during my university studies, and I remember very distinctly sitting in the library, trying to prepare for a test and looking at the book and not even being able to discern the words in the book. I couldn't read anymore, just because, yeah, that was the low point. That was kind of what pushed me to actually get help and work at the thing. It often happens to, I read up on this a lot, and apparently it often happens to very passionate people. Like there's a saying that says you have to have burned for something to actually burn out, and it is a risk. And once you have it, it is a pretty long road to get away from it, to get out of that specific rut, because you're your own worst enemy. Like you're gonna perpetuate that in your mind. You're gonna have feelings of self-hate, of guilt, and it's gonna be very difficult to get out of there. With might even be almost impossible without anyone, without professional help. I've done it, and having done it, and feeling myself being able to work again, to actually spend the energy, and feeling that that is a thing that one can do, actually come back from that, has been incredibly helpful, which is what I'm hoping to convey here. Even if you have like severe burnout and you really feel like you will never be able to work again, do anything again, there's still a way for you to come back. You might maybe spend a year trying to get out of that. You might spend 2 years, but it's not the end of your life by any stretch of the imagination. And you will also come out of that experience and actually be stronger and wiser than when that happened upon you, when you caused that situation. You will have to learn that your own energy is finite, that time is finite. You might be treating your body very badly. That is also finite. At some point, if you keep treating your body like shit, then your body's gonna die, and you with it. So there's definitely a way to get out of the burnout. I mean, if you have that, you should really talk with a medical professional that can help you understand why you got to that point, how you actually managed to go consistently over your own personal levels of energy, and arrive at a point where you have no energy left. But you can actually really work against that and try to get new habits where you a lot of things where you're trying to counteract that involves consciousness training and attentiveness, just like actually feeling that you're there, recognizing your own feelings in the current moment, seeing how you work, what your needs are at this point, all that kind of stuff. You might just waltz over in daily life, and that might be okay if you are not suffering from mental illness. Then normally these kinds of transgressions against yourself will not result in anything bad. But if you like keep doing it for years, then at some point there is a bill to pay. No one can go over their own energy limit forever. That's also one of the reasons why you see a lot of content creators get burnout eventually, because you have like the YouTube machine, where you need to deliver content every day, and you have a lot of hungry people that wanna get in on the action, and that are trying their damnness, and they're like working 10, 12, 14, 16 hours a day just to fill that content pipeline. They can't do that forever. It's just not a thing. If you see someone doing that and you know them, then you can warn them, but there's only so much that you can do with your energy. It's much better to learn how to work effectively and to prioritize things instead of just heaping time and work hours on all the project and just spraying it with the hose, with the energy hose. And yeah, but it is possible to get back from that, to learn that how to use your time and be conscious of what you're doing, and also being able to take time off. One of the symptoms of burnout is actually that when you're getting to burnout, is that everything apart from working or doing what is bringing towards a burnout seems kind of lackluster. If you're losing interest in everything, then that might definitely be a symptom of burnout. At that point, you might already be steering towards it, or actually being in the first stages. Well, yeah, I guess this has been kind of rambly. I hope that it helps. I hope that if you have any of these symptoms that I mentioned, insomnia, dark thoughts, especially suicidal thoughts, or if you actually feel like you have a burnout, then you will go for a medical professional, try to get help, try to get medication, try to get psychotherapy, and actually, get your life back on track. It's never too late, and you can come back from everything, really. So, yeah. Hope that helps. If you want to share your experiences, if you've also struggled with depression or with burnout, or if you have any questions, then you can leave it in the comments. And I thank you very much for watching. Have a good day. Bye-bye.